Meeting, which is the community forum for Tuesday, February 27, 2018, to order. If you all please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the viewing public. Just as notation for everyone in the room, WIN TV is taping this open forum tonight. It is streaming live now on WIN TV's YouTube page at youtube.com/WindsorTV5. It is also broadcasting live on WIN TV channel 95. This program will be rebroadcasted on channels 5, 95, and 96, and will be available on demand on WIN TV's YouTube page. With that being said, the chair recognizes Dr. Cook for agenda item number 2.
Yes, thank you, President Lockhart. Just a brief update. I was asked to provide some information about the schools and what's been going on in our work since the last public forum for those of you who may not have been able to attend all the events and things going on. And so just to share some recent actions regarding school climate, we had a community presentation given by Joanne Freiberg from the state of Connecticut on school climate, bullying, and character education on January 9th. Approximately 50 people attended. It was taped by WIN TV, and we're hoping to get that video out shortly. We have not received that back yet, but I know we will soon. The presentation focused on bullying and use of restorative justice. It was an excellent presentation, I felt, and addressed some of the concerns that we've been talking about as a community. The following month, in February, we had a community presentation given by Scott Driscoll of Internet Safety Concepts on Internet safety for middle school students and all community families, grades 5 through 12. That was on February 22nd. That was not able to be videotaped, but based on the presenter's contract, but it was a very interactive, informative session. About 30 people attended that session, and for the community, it dealt with issues that families deal with their children using internet and technology devices and many of the websites and social media outlets that they frequent. Probably more importantly, though, each grade level, 6 through 12, is receiving a tailored presentation to their age group. We have completed all of Sage Park, and we're in the process. In April, we'll do each grade level at the high school. I sat through one of those, and I know even for the 6th grade, it was tailored specifically for 6th graders. So I think it was very informative based on the questions asked by the students and their hands going up, and they were asked questions, and the questions that they asked the presenter after, they were very engaged and received a lot of good information on it. At the Board of Education's February meeting, the board voted to create both an internal and an external task force on school climate. And so those committees will begin their work in March, and will provide a report to the administration for late April, and that report will go to the board for June, and also the executive committee in early June. But the Board of Education at its June meeting, committee received a charge, and membership is being added to as we speak, and then will be finalized by the board president. The information is on the tables, as well as pretty much everything that I'm speaking about tonight. There's copies available for you on the tables. We have finalized the family help guides that were spoken about last forum, and also have been shared with the board at board meetings. And we do view these as fluid documents. They will, by their nature, need to be updated each year, minimally once, as counselors' names change and the students they work with change. So those will be updated frequently. They are on the website, and as well as a suggestion that came forward, similar to our budget tab, there is a tab on our website and family page that allows families to share a concern with the Board of Education, excuse me, with the administration. So the concern is sent through similar as a budget question is submitted, and that goes to the administration. And similar to a call to the superintendent's office, it would be filtered out whether to the schools or department to be followed up on. So that's a new piece that gives families another option to be able to submit information to us. On the website, it does suggest that families review the Family Help Guide prior to submitting, because that information may already be available to them, or it may be something that can be solved at the building level. But it is another tool that we shared with the family and is available now. There is a memo provided as well tonight on school safety initiatives. It was shared with the board at the board meeting last week, and I wanted to point out not every initiative can be shared based on confidentiality, and it would decrease the effectiveness of the safety initiative, but the vast majority of the projects and initiatives we have put in place at our schools are referenced there. It also references future safety initiatives that will be eventually funded and put in place as well. And finally, the district results on the state accountability report from the school year 16-17 is shared. We have an upcoming workshop with the board on April 3rd, and I realize these are pretty detailed reports. There's lots of information on the state website for them, but I would urge our public to join the Board of Education in this room on April 3rd to receive a report that will go school by school, also share district results, and share some tips on how to read the report and how things are calculated. So we have done that presentation before, and I know it was very well received by the board and the public. So I would encourage anyone that's interested in that to attend that meeting, or certainly to watch on TV, because that will be taped by Win TV as well. Windsor's results on that report do show an increase of 2.4% from the previous year. So we're very pleased with the growth, as the vast majority of districts declined. We went up 2.4%, and this pushed Windsor above state average, and so that was a marker that we were working towards. So we're very pleased to have reached that in the 16-17 report, and again look forward to working with the board and sharing those results on April 3rd. That was my report, President Lockhart.
Any questions for Dr. Cook? Seeing and hearing none. Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is the community forum, limited for a 2-hour time limit. The time is 6:38. As laid out, the board welcomes public participation, asks that each speaker please limit their comments to 5 minutes. As we've done with the previous forum, this allows the public to engage with back and forth dialogue with board members if they choose. They can make comments and then go take their seat if they choose not to be in dialogue with the board. But this is an opportunity for them to address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes. When we're at a certain point, do you have your red card? At 4 minutes and 30 seconds, Mr. Fury will hold up a red card advising you to start winding down your comments. And at 5 minutes, he will hold up the card permanently. I'm trying to talk as loud as I can. I apologize. I'm not feeling the greatest, so if I'm not speaking loud enough, please let me know. With that being said, would anybody like to address the board? Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Chris Luiso on Stacy Drive.
Thank you.
First off, thank you again to the board and to Superintendent Cook for holding another one of these forums. I wish we had a few more people in attendance. Maybe we'll have some people come in late. maybe we just need to get the word out a little bit more. I was going to stop attending these forums based on several things that have occurred since our last meeting. But I've had numerous communications with people around town, parents, teachers in our school system, thanking me for, and not just me, but for other parents for kind of getting this thing up and going, where we can get these issues on the table and bring it to the forefront and hopefully make some positive changes. And I had a couple heart-to-heart conversations, and I was expressing my, kind of my frustrations with some of the feedback, not only I was getting in some instances, but also my wife, who obviously works at one of the schools. I was urged to keep going, to keep the voice going, to not give up, and to just make sure that things were going to be moving in a positive direction. I'm happy to see that there's a task force that's being assembled. I think that's a great step and a positive step, and I'll have some questions at the end about that. But one thing that really bothered me, and I'm sure most of you know, there's forums on Facebook and there's a lot of communications that go on there. People share their opinions there. We all don't have to agree on certain things, and that's fine. I don't expect everyone to agree on certain things, whether it's a parent to parent, parent to educator, educator to educator, whatever the case may be. But I'm a little disturbed by the fact that an educator in this town at my wife's school confronted my wife during working hours in front of a group of students, basically ripping her a new one for expressing her opinions on this Facebook forum. Basically, and if anyone, not many of you know who my wife is, but she has a hard time biting her tongue. And I commend her for biting her tongue in this instance, because this educator, in front of a group of students who look up to my wife and appreciate what my wife does for them, called her an absolute disgrace to Pequannock School, a poor representation of Pequannock School. My wife is anything but that. I'll tell you that right now. The kids, when she's around town, and whether it's Price Chopper, Target, wherever it may be, she's a celebrity. The kids come running up to her. They love her. Okay, so because we've brought certain issues to light, certain people who have their head in the sand, and I hope she's watching tonight, because her head is in the sand, because she has no idea what's going on within the confines of her school. And I'm going to list some things since our last meeting that have happened within that school. There's been a staff member punched, hit with a lunchbox. Another staff member who we've spoken about here was hit twice. Another staff member hit. My wife was hit again.
I'm going to ask you to suspend for a moment. Okay, I was okay with you making general comments, but I think you went a little towards the line of actually identifying the person that you have issue with. And one of the things I cannot allow as board chair, that any comment shall not be made against any employees of the Windsor Public School District or children outside of your own. I should have clarified that in the beginning. So I'm going to ask you to suspend your comments that are directly engaged toward that particular employee that you're speaking of, and speak more in general terms. And that would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, and I apologize for that. And I won't go down that path, but I'll tell you, aside from 1, 2, 3 other staff members being hit, some multiple times, my wife was punched again, cussed at again. When she stopped a child from leaving school premises, the kid got mad, picked up a trunk of blacktop and threw it at her. I know these were documented. I'm not sure. And again, I'm bringing these out in the forum, so hopefully people are watching and they understand what's going on inside this building. Kids making lewd gestures in the cafeteria and then getting hugs to kind of comfort them. I don't buy it. Going outside of that school recently, and again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but there was just a kid who assaulted a guest of a classroom at my son's school. Not in his class, but another class, tore the room apart, privacy team, kids not being allowed to get their stuff to go home at the end of the day. Another kid who I have a place in my heart for tried breaking up a fight for a kid that was getting picked on. This kid wound up getting assaulted, wound up with a concussion. I just want to bring to attention that while we've brought some instances to the forefront, these instances are still happening. We need to act a little bit quicker. You've had, paras and teachers with head injuries this year. It's out of control when it comes to that stuff. I know I have 30 seconds left, but I wanted to address the issue with the task force, specifically the external task force. My question would be how does somebody who's not a member of that task force, how do we share our stories with that group so that the issues are presented and that they're aware of them? Because honestly, if you go by, and I was looking at the roster of some of this, you look at the people that are on some of these task force, some of the stuff I know is happening in their school, and it seems like there's some administrators, I don't even say administrators, but it seems like other people, they don't know what's actually going on in their own building. I think people within the building, I don't know that you need to have a daily briefing with faculty as to what some of the behaviors that are going on in the schools, but it just seems to me that some people are in the dark as to what's going on. And so, yeah, I'm curious as to how outside we communicate with these task force and then how we proceed going forward.
Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you so much for speaking, Chris. It's nice to see you in attendance again for the second forum. I also follow on the Facebook page, and concerns are raised, and I would say that the incidences that you bring to light during this forum are real and they are valid. There's a part of me that feels that they are isolated in some way, right? So one of the things that I'm interested in understanding is like the frequency of these incidences occurring, because we can kind of look at like the entire year, right? And we can see like the frequency of the incidences, and that might help us to get a better understanding of how systemic this may be, because right now it seems like isolated instances. So I don't know. So I think that's fair to raise that concern. I do think there's a lot of great work going on within the building, so I don't want to devalue what you're expressing. I just want to make that.
Right. No, and honestly, I don't want to paint the wrong picture. I don't think Windsor schools are this out of control environment where it's all negative. I think Windsor schools are great. I have a lot of friends who are teachers within this school system. I think they do fantastic work. I have the utmost respect for teachers. I originally went to school to become a teacher. I value what they do. When you're asked about how do you tell about the frequency of some of these things, I could tell you my wife's instance, I know she writes these things up, and she's doing write-ups, I don't know if I want to tell you on a daily basis, but pretty darn close to a daily basis. And if she doesn't do one day, she might do multiple the next. So however these are logged in the school system, I don't know who has access to these things, how they're followed up on. I don't know, but I don't want to if I gave the impression that I feel like Windsor schools are out of control, that's not what I'm saying. They're absolutely, I know they aren't. Like I said, I have the utmost respect for what the teachers and the administrators are trying to accomplish. And I'm not even convinced that it's individuals that are the issue. I think it's more the system. And I'm not just talking about Windsor school systems. I'm talking about whether it's state, local, state, federal. I'm not sure exactly. I just think we've taken away the ability for a lot of these kids to cope with their problems. They don't know how to handle their problems. And in most of these instances, and several of the ones I spoke of tonight, they're all repeat offenders. It's repeat offenders. That's the issue I have, is that there's nothing being done. And again, I'm not asking for kids to be removed from school, but you know what? Some of these kids, they need help.
Can I share one more?
Sure.
I think I have two more. One is like, so when we use the term, do you mind if I push back a little bit?
No.
Okay. When we use the term repeat offenders, that's like a term used in the criminal justice system. And so I would just like kind of frame that as, you know, there may be students who are struggling, and I appreciate your concern with, you know, the fact that I use a term like they're little volcanoes, right? They don't maybe have the coping mechanisms in place. So what can we do collectively to kind of teach that, right? As an educational system. What is I have a direct question though, what would you suggest be the process for, I'm going to use the term non-members of the task force, like general community members, to share their stories and feedback?
I don't know if maybe you can do something, an online thing. I don't know if there's how information can be shared. Maybe a hotline where you have instances where you can call in anonymously, maybe. Or, you know, give your name and say, okay, this is what happened. I just want to report this instance at a school. And then if they want to give their information for follow-up, someone from that task force to reach out to them to find out more about it. Maybe that's a way we can, you know, I understand a lot of people don't like to come to this type of forum. You know, you have the TV here, WIN TV here. They don't want to get up and have their comments on record. I understand that. And that's another reason why I'm here, because one person in particular, I don't feel that was referenced in a couple of my statements. I don't think they felt comfortable about coming here tonight. So I think, you know, maybe a hotline or a website where you have access to a couple of key people, and you know, you can report in. It's something that parents know about when they have these instances, that it can be reported. I just think there needs to be awareness, and I think. And some of my concern is that I'm not sure people generally are aware of a lot of these instances, and I think that's a little bit of an issue. And going back to the point where I was cut short before, I just don't think that person has a general understanding. I think there's blinders.
Okay, please.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
I don't know if
Mr. President, something for, I don't know if that's to you or to Superintendent Cook, relative to the request that Mr. Luiso made about some sort of contact form. Is it possible to set that up on the...
That's going to be on the May.
Okay,
I will adjust that.
Okay, that's my only comment. Thank you, sir.
fair.
Anything, Mr. Dolan?
I just want to make a statement. Chris, thank you for coming out, and please, I ask that you keep coming out. That's all I have to say.
All right. I thank you for coming out. I just ask you in the future, please do not make any comments about any employee of the Windsor Public School System. No matter how we may feel about the employee, they are still an employee of the Windsor Public School District. And as president of the Board of Ed, it is my responsibility to make sure, from a human resources standpoint, that I make sure that I protect them as well, just like every other student. So I must offer this particular individual apology that I allowed the comments to go that far. So I know you are better than that. I know you're speaking from a position of passion, but I truly understand I'm speaking from a position of authority as president, that I cannot allow that type of discord to happen towards any employee or student of the Windsor Public School System. But I do appreciate your comments.
And I understand that, and honestly, I have respect for this person. I really do. Maybe a little bit less than before, but it wasn't meant as, I wasn't trying to be disparaging, just kind of bring to light that this is an issue.
Thank you.
I have one comment. I just would like you to know and others to know, because I've seen on the Windsor Open Forum, sometimes saying, who is the representative? The representative from the board going to each of these schools is on the website, but if you or anybody, member of the public, has a concern and you feel, I really don't want to go to the administration because I don't want to get myself into a sensitive thing, contact any of us. And we can't speak for the board. We only speak for ourselves, but we all, as many of us, are newbies here as well. And we want to know, we want to hear feedback. And I don't usually communicate on that website, but I like to hear what's going on, because it gives me another sense of issues. And usually people go on to that type of media when there's an immediate concern. And I know some of the times, I know answers to those questions, and I know things are really being done, and a situation that's presented itself is really not what's happened. But I'm not going to really get involved in social media, but I do want that feedback, and I want people to contact me.
Yep.
So.
No, and I appreciate this board's openness to having forums like this and having people come out. I'm hoping more people partake in this. I think some people do have an issue speaking out and maybe contacting administration, but if they can reach out to anyone sitting on this board with some of their concerns in a confidential manner, I'm hoping that's what happens. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to paint Windsor Schools as a bad place, but I will tell you, I have a lot of friends with younger kids, and they're moving out of town.
Yep.
And because of these schools. And I have friends who have left town because of these schools. So I don't want to have to do that. I graduated from Windsor High School. I like it here. I don't want to have to do that. That's why I'm here. I think we can do better. So
Thank you.
with that, thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board?
My name is Marvin Jones. I live at 510 West Walcott Avenue, Windsor.
Good evening, sir.
And I have a couple things to say before I get started. Number one, arming teachers is just not the right thing to do. It's a gimmick. You're not going to get the bonus, because how can you survive with 6 or 7 bullets against somebody that's going to shoot you back with 50? And then what would happen if the substitute teachers come in? The other thing is that the state of Ohio said that they have a drug program from K through 12 that you can request for. And when my kids were here, they had the drug program, and then after that, the police department couldn't afford to allow policemen to do the program when they were off. The other thing is, the president keeps saying that that you're not going to lose your Second Amendment. He doesn't understand it takes a constitutional convention of every state, and then you have to have 34 states agree to repeal the Second Amendment. The other thing is that I hope no teachers sign up to carry a weapon in the classroom. I taught for 20 years, and the compassion you have for the kids, you would be very uncomfortable with a firearm. And the other thing is, can you imagine somebody with a firearm in preschool or kindergarten? It's impossible. It's a trick. I spent 2 years in Korea, and I was in those hills for 14 months. Before that, I was in Camp Chaffee, Arkansas, and my mother cried when I had to go to Arkansas because I had never been south, and south was, still not integrated. The other thing is that when I got out of Korea, I became a teacher for 20 years, and then after that, before that, I was a policeman for 12 years. And if I was in the classroom today, I would not sign up for that program. It's a gimmick. And what are you going to do with the bonus? Help pay for your coffin? It's just asking teachers to commit suicide. When I was in Korea, we got combat pay of $45 a month, but you had to be shot at least 6 times during the month to qualify. So, you know, and then they're offering teachers bonuses to die. That's ridiculous. I hope no Windsor teacher will sign up to carry an arm in the classroom. We have too much passion for the kids to do that. And the president, who had 5 deferments, is not going to rush in a building with no arms. It's unbelievable to thinking that he wants to arm teachers. It's a death warrant. That's the way I would look at it. And even with the experience I had, I wouldn't do it. And after I was on the police department, and I'm lucky to still be here, because I'll be 89 this year, 90 next year. And I had a call. I'll leave you with this last story. I had a call for Nelson Street. The woman said she had heard somebody on the porch. And so I went up the front way, another policeman went up the back way. And her husband had left her with a gun. And when I knocked on the door, and she opened the door, she had the gun pointed right at my stomach. If she had panicked, I wouldn't be here. And what she said to me was, I would like a white policeman. I said, no problem. And I went round and got my friend to come from the backside. But as the last warning, I don't know what the board can do. And they may claim it of, you know, they will claim it's, you know, it's against your rights for the board to say that no teachers can do that. But how many husbands going to allow their wives to be armed and teach? You can't teach with a weapon. So I thank you.
Any questions? I want to lead off by saying this board is not considering in any way, shape, or form of arming any of our staff members. We have a very capable Windsor Police Department. If they need any support, state police and the surrounding agencies are very willing to come in and support Windsor if there's any issues within our buildings. I truly believe that the plan that we have in place for our 7 buildings is sound, and Windsor Police is prepared to address any and all situations of that magnitude. I will tell you, when Parkland took place, it bothered me, and Dr. Cook can confirm. I called him, and I wanted to be very clear what are our contingency plans if something like this was to happen in Windsor. So I'm very comfortable of where we are and what we can do. I'm very, very committed that safety is at the paramount of everything that we do. We talk about safety about for our children, stuff of that nature, but also safety of our employees. And you know, the teachers do enough, the administrators do enough to try to educate our children, and then have to worry about the safety practices and the legalities of carrying a concealed weapon. You know, I'm not for teachers being armed in the buildings. That's just me personally, and I'm for Second Amendment rights. I believe every man and woman should have the right to bear arms, but not within our school system and not within our buildings. That's why we have police departments. So understand that we will do whatever we need to do to make sure that our buildings are safe, to the point where we never have to even consider having any of our staff members that are not law enforcement officers carrying weapons within the building. That
wasn't the intent of the Second Amendment in the beginning, but they expanded it and expanded it. I have 4 children that graduated from Windsor, and I had 2 grandchildren that also graduated. And one of my daughters became a teacher, and she just retired at age 55. I keep thinking she's in her 30s. and then I had a nephew that came and lived with me, and then somebody made a phone call that his mother was picking him up every day. And then I had to come before the board and and swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. My sister didn't drive, and her son that I had, he became a lawyer. He ended up going to Georgetown from Tufts, and so he's been a lawyer for 20 years. And my daughter worked for the state since she was 18, so she just retired. But I'm glad the board doesn't want to arm any teachers, and even with my experience, I wouldn't do it today.
Mr. Elvell, and then Mr. Boschnett, please.
Thank you, President Lockhart. Mr. Jones, first thing I'd like to say is thank you for your service.
Amen.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate your service, and I can only imagine the difficulty in Korea in the hills, and I know their weather is similar to ours at some points in the year, and it would be a challenge for everyone.
I still get upset, $45 to stay alive. And then when I came home, I didn't have a job, and they offered me unemployment, $26.26 for 26 weeks. The state finally gave us $300, but I wouldn't advise anybody to go to war again. It's unbelievable.
I appreciate that. I also say I don't believe there's any discussions in the state of Connecticut in respect to arming teachers. I'm sure there's going to be some states that will work with that idea. The beauty of our republic system is that every state can do what they wish.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily a great idea, especially in Connecticut. And I think we'll have to see what happens with that experiment if it is enacted in other states. But at this point, I don't believe we have to worry about that in Connecticut, at least not yet.
I know.
And again, thank you.
2 shots against 50 doesn't make sense.
Agreed. Mr. Bosch?
Thank you.
So, and you're welcome to take a seat. I have no question. I have just 2 statements, and they were really already said. The first one is thank you. Thank you for your service as a veteran, as an officer. Thank you for your service as a teacher. And thank you for coming here and taking the time out of your day to share your story.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
My wife and them don't want me to drive at night, but I only live around the corner.
And like I said, I'm glad you're into that $45 a month. Earning that is better than the alternative. So in the comment which was made by President Lockhart and by Mr. Elvell, that the conversation about arming teachers has not crossed this board. So just like the other members here, I can't speak as a board. We just never had that conversation. I can only tell you as an individual, I would never be in favor of arming teachers, no matter what comes across. I agree with everything you said. And one of the things I feel, and actually I must have said it more than once because people around town have kind of echoed the sentiment back to me, like, oh yeah, we heard you say that, is one of the things that we do that's more important than educating our kids, which should be very important, is the safety of our kids. That's paramount. That's more important than educating because you can't educate someone unless they're safe. Personally, I agree with you, having a gun in the classroom, and I don't have all the data, but that's less safe to me for some of the reasons that you brought up yourself, just having it there.
And then my wife said, what happens when a substitute has to come in? Who's going to cover them?
Yeah, well, we haven't had those conversations. Hopefully we don't need to, but I could tell you, even though I don't have all the data, I cannot see myself ever being in support of that, personally.
Yeah, I went to school in El Dorado, Kansas. And now I was in a town where you didn't even have to lock your door, and everybody spoke to you whether they knew you or not.
I'm upset that we have to lock our door in town now. I never used to lock my car or my house or anything. I was happy to leave everything open for the day, but that's changed. But thank you again.
You're welcome.
Mr. Nolan?
Mr. Jones, I just have one quick thing. Again, I want to echo what everyone's saying about thanking you. But I have one quick favor I'd like to ask. If you can come back in 11 years and just tell us more stories.
I hope to live to be 100, but what I prayed for was to, live long enough, and my grandson that's still there, 19, you know, that he would graduate and go to college.
Amen.
He's at Manchester. But since he turned 19, he acts like he's 33.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Anyone else? Dr. Cook, recognizing Dr. Cook.
Sure, and come up, Ms.
You
Capco,
come up, but
please.
first I have Dr. Cook right now.
I just wanted to share my understanding of current Connecticut state law, and that can change, is that the Board of Ed cannot employ armed personnel. So I know a town close to us that had armed security guards. They were employees of the police department. They're not employees of the Board of Ed. So I just want to share that to maybe further reiterate that Connecticut is not close to going in that direction.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Good evening. I'm Cindy Gapko from 46 Lockview Drive. So I would like to discuss a couple issues, and they kind of go together. So the major one is concussions and discussing concussion management and a return to learn program. There are other states that have these programs. Pennsylvania is one of them, and it is called Brain Steps. With that program, they support teachers as well as students, and they help them figure out how to help the student, the child, recover quicker, to get them back into the classroom so that if they're an athlete, they also can get back on the field. But being on the field is not the number one goal. The number one goal is to get them in the classroom and keep them learning. So I have been very passionate about this. My daughter graduated from Windsor High School last year. She had 4 concussions in a total of 6 years. And with that, we had many, many bumpy roads. We had some fantastic teachers. We had a few really bad teachers. I will tell you, in hindsight, a couple of those teachers were not bad teachers. What they were teachers that were not supported. They were teachers who didn't know what to do, and they were teachers that weren't being supported on the outside. And so one of the teachers actually went out on his own and paid for a class to learn how to help students take notes better, because that was an issue that happens with students with concussions. He come back to me with tears in his eyes, and he asked for us to forgive him. No teacher should be in that place when we have a tool that we can support them. I had another teacher who left and come back, and she is like one of the most fantastic teachers. She literally said she refused to do what the doctor said to do when my daughter was there. My son is a freshman this year at the high school, and he got a concussion playing soccer. I never thought I would be in this position again, and here I am. Sadly, I'm reliving exactly what I went through my daughter's freshman year, and it's disgusting. We have tools that we can use, and Windsor is better than this. We cannot allow these kids to happen. So if I have a family with 2 kids that have got a concussion and have had to deal with this, what is happening to all the other students and all the other athletes and all the other kids that aren't athletes that are getting concussions and coming back to school? With this, the second piece of that is we have teachers not following doctor's notes and not following 504s, and that is a major problem. It's illegal. It's not okay. And teachers need to be educated on what they need to do. They need to understand what kids need to learn. And I understand all the other issues that go on in the classroom. I'm a sub at the high school. I get it. But we need to be helping. And I'm a parent who is here, and I have offered to help in so many ways, and I've given information, and I'm not okay sitting back watching it anymore. It needs to change. And so on top of that, my final issue that goes with this is I have made phone calls, I have had emails, I've been trying to set up meetings. It takes a week to get a meeting. I have teachers not returning emails, not within the 24-hour time anyway. I have had phone calls that have gone unanswered. It's not acceptable. We have parent engagement as one of our #1 issues in Windsor. How do we have parents not being responded to? So with this, it comes back to me with the concussions. Students that are stressed and have concussions end up staying with the concussion symptoms longer. They even go into setbacks. And so with the setback, those symptoms are stronger than what the original symptoms were. It prevents the students from healing as quickly as they possibly could. And so we have a way to help change that. So there's a town, Westport, Connecticut, they run this. Their past superintendent was so passionate about this that he actually went to legislation and helped make changes. We need to do this. And I'm willing to answer any questions that I can answer. I'm willing to sit at tables. I'm willing to be on a task force. I'm willing to do whatever. But Windsor's better than this, and there are really fantastic things about Windsor High School, and I'm not okay with these families leaving. And it is happening. Someone a few streets from me put a for sale sign up. The for sale sign is up because their kid is going to kindergarten next year. They're not sending their kid to this school. It's not okay. And so let's make it right. I'll give you any information you want. As a parent, ask me. I'll tell you what it feels like. I'll tell you what it feels like from inside the school too. We're good. We can be better. This part is not good.
All right, for transparency of the board, I've been dealing with Ms. Gapko. She has emailed me as requested. She has sent me information. I've received the information. I've been working with Dr. Cook. Dr. Cook has been working with Ms. Gapko. It's my understanding Mr. Cook has had meetings scheduled for Ms. Gapko in certain instances. So I have not followed up with Dr. Cook on any of this. Typically when Dr. Cook gets back to me, that means he has something to report on. So I'm not going to put Dr. Cook on the spot in public forum tonight because I have not engaged him on this discussion. But just for open transparency, this has come across my desk. It has been referred to Dr. Cook, and I'm trusting wholeheartedly Dr. Cook is addressing the situation through the administration and his chain. So when you frame your questions, just understand that I am aware of this, and that's what's in process right now. Mr. Delgado?
Thank you, President Lockhart. Ms. Gapko, simple question. Have you, I'm just throwing this out there. Students having concussions is, I presume, a greater number than 1 out of every 100. And I know we've had conversations on this issue, but have you considered, I'm just throwing it out there, the idea of setting up a Facebook page so that if a student or a parent who has a student has a concussion, that may be a place for them to get some information that you've been able to derive from third-party sources?
I have parents that call me weekly. They're
okay. Becoming the expert.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. All right, thank you.
Ms. Sissel?
Thank you for coming out to tonight's forum. We have also had conversations about this issue. This issue is very personal to me, as my son has had a concussion at the beginning of the school year, and you were a resource that I looked to in order to get some referrals and also just understand what to expect. And I really thank you for taking up this charge. I wish that it wasn't under such duress circumstances. However, I can imagine that your son is in the best hands to move through this. So I'm wondering, you mentioned the family engagement and as a priority, and you mentioned responsiveness maybe. I don't think you used that term, but I think generally responsiveness has come through your statements. And and then you also mentioned education for teachers, right, about how to maybe support a student within the classroom and maybe reduce their stress. because you mentioned that that's like maybe detrimental to the healing process, and delay, right, the recovery. So I'm wondering what information could be disseminated to all families about just concussions in general. Like, I would imagine you have, from what you've shared with me, you have a wealth of knowledge. I know you're a PLTI graduate, so putting all that kind of, those skills together, I'm wondering if you have already created some sort of document that could be like facts, right? Frequently asked questions, resources for family members, because we're not ultimately responsible in all situations, right? Circumstances for when one of our little humans may have get a concussion, right? They may be younger, right? They may be beyond, or they might not even be within our school, right? But then, so I'm just wondering what information we could provide to families so that way they're better informed, so they know how to kind of set up an environment for their kids to be able to, really recover to their fullest capacity.
So if a student is an athlete, especially at the high school, but it has gone down to the Sage Park level as well, but at the high school, they cannot join a team until they go through all of the concussion training. They're supposed to do it with their student as well, their child. So that's one piece. I have met a few years ago with Mr. Carvello and Mr. Cook, Dr. Cook, and shared much of this information. A lot of it is on the CDC, and it's already printed in there. The Brain Steps program is very good in that. We could compile something from all of that information. I said I would be part of that as well. However, I really think this needs to be an issue that comes from the top down. If it's not the board thinking it's important and taking it on like it is an important issue, we are going to continue to have students sitting in the classroom who don't know what's going on. We have kids that aren't going to tell that they have a concussion. However, the more aware we are and the more educated we are about anything, then the more we can know. So if the teachers know what to be looking for, it helps the student. If the staff knows what to do and what the administration knows what to do, and the parents are educated, and it's not just a one-time thing, it needs to keep being seen by them. So different flyers, different brochures, different pieces put into the health curriculum. I think it just needs to be a constant piece. And so another thing that goes with this is a lot of students that have concussion end up becoming depressed, and they end up falling into that higher suicide rate. And learning to cope, we know what those things are. They start drinking and being promiscuous and drugs and whatever. So I just think the more educated we could be, and doing this together, like I know that I've talked about it in the past, and I'm still here. However, I've lost my patience with waiting. Like, when it comes to, we have tools, we have to use them. And so if you need me to create it, I will create it. I don't think I need to be the one, but I will be the one helping.
Thank you so much. And thanks for continuing to come out, Cindy, and please keep pushing us to really, continue the conversation and look into this issue more fully as as a full board, possibly. I can't speak for the full board, but I think we do have some obligation, if that's nothing more than an obligation, to really look at this issue. So thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, as I committed to you, I'm still working with fellow board chairs across the state. Have not received a lot of feedback stating that they are taking this up as an issue. Also trying to look through my own research through the State Department of Education to see what's there for the state of Connecticut. not turn up a lot there. As I
I have it with me if you'd like a copy of it.
I'm sorry, one more time. I didn't hear you say it again.
I said I have a copy of that with me if you'd like a copy.
From the state of Connecticut
Yeah.
Department of Education? Okay. If you have that, if you can just give that to Dr. Cook.
He has a copy of
Okay.
it.
So, Dr. Cook's still working on it. Progress can be slow at times. I want to be, if we're going to be methodical about this, I want to make sure if we do something, we do it right and do it right the first time. I wish not to rush into something of this magnitude, so I want to make sure we get it right. So, just for open transparency, again, I've been done with her, and it's in the hands of Dr. Cook, and I'll be working with Dr. Cook on this, and if need be, I'll bring it to the executive committee for discussion once we're ready to get everyone at that point. You're good?
Yeah, I can. Well, if I could share a couple of points because I just want to share what the board has done and the administration has done. So last year we trained all teaching staff for 2 hours on concussions, and it was something across the district that we had an expert come in and work with the staffs across the building. And this board was one of the first, and I'm sure there's others that have joined us since then. I know there has been, but I believe it was about 3 budget years ago that added pre-concussion assessments for our athletes at the high school level, and then very quickly added it to the middle school as well. And so that's very helpful for a physician if there is a concussion for one of our athletes, that they have that pre-assessment that they can utilize. I have reached out to the district mentioned by Ms. Gapko, and as she mentioned, leadership has changed, but they had some documents in place and policies in place that were I think progressive, in my opinion, that we were looking at. I've shared those with Mr. Carvalho. We've had some discussions on that, and we've looked at ways we can utilize our staffing for next year, maybe within current parameters to assist a little bit more district-wide. But we are, as has been mentioned many times, at the mercy of information shared with us, whether it's through a doctor's note or through students and things like that. Because also as mentioned, many times a concussion may happen over the weekend. It may happen after at school in a travel league versus our athletics, and so we are working with that, and then we just ask any families in that situation to make sure they're dialoguing with our staff, and we do a good job, I feel like, sharing with the staff that are working with a student that here's the parameters that they're under, and here's the time frame and things like that. But it is not necessarily a perfect system, so we ask that they continue to dialogue with us and work through any issues that they may have. So just wanted to share that information.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Hi, my name is Kate Morgan. I live on Apple Tree Lane in Windsor. Just first off, thanks again for listening to me. In my own personal experience, since I've started speaking and things, the issues my son has had have resided, which is wonderful. We've worked really well. The school and I have talked. We've changed classrooms. We've done a lot, and the school's been very receptive to things and suggestions. The one thing I do have to say, and it's not just Windsor schools, it's everywhere. I think we all really just need to reevaluate our mental health in the school system, not just outside the school system, but teaching kids the power of positivity and understanding. It's so important, especially at the younger level where you have a lot of the bullying happening. And also there's some other school-wide policies. I don't know if there are district-mandated policies. I don't know. One silly one being, and it just kind of struck a chord with me this past weekend, it was my daughter's 7th birthday. And the rules state, you invite one student, you invite them all. And I've always been a firm believer, you don't exclude anyone for anything or anything. But then what happens when no one comes and your child's left there saying, where are my friends? So I think we also need to, in the negative impact that can have on a small child, and that can really play, like, that's a big thing for someone who's little. And they don't fully comprehend it. And I mean, we still made a great day, and we had one friend from outside the class that was there, and it was a good time. But the simple fact of the matter is, I feel that if these policies weren't in place, I feel like certain individuals might have been more apt to call, you never know dynamics. But in situations like that, I think certain rules and things, they shouldn't be there. I mean, I get that some kids get excluded and some kids get no one coming to their, involvement, but we need to start worrying about the mental health of our young children. My daughter's 7. She was, just found out she has anxiety issues at 7. And it started with school stuff. I mean, what can we do to address these issues early on, not just as parents or separate educators or anything, but as a group? And that's what I think was one of the main focuses we need to start working on, is just from the bottom up, looking at everything and saying, hey, what can we do to teach these kids positivity and just being kind? And that's all I have to say today. But thanks for listening to me.
Any questions for the speaker?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. I thought you nodded. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for coming out and speaking. I'm really, really glad to hear that you found the school was responsive and are making changes based on your suggestions. And I do believe that you're included in the task force list. Glad to see that you're getting more involved.
Absolutely.
I also, I hear you around addressing mental health in the school systems. It's something that I am very passionate about. And you brought up positivity and kindness. And we have within our school system, which I'm sure Dr. Cook could speak to a greater degree around, but the PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports, and then also the Second Step curriculum, which is actually endorsed through CASEL, which is like the national leaders on social emotional learning. And so we're like just beginning. I'm a board member, I'm not involved in the work really. The district is really beginning that work. So I think it will be interesting to see over the next couple of years how, and I know it's like years, it's like, oh gosh. But change takes time, right?
Absolutely.
But it'll be really interesting to see if there is a shift in climate and culture within the buildings with having specifically the Second Step implemented, because it addresses that, like, that internal world, right? The internal drama of children. I mean, I think we're all little drama makers,
other world.
right?
It's a whole other realm.
A whole other realm. Then we have to like encourage them to maintain their own personal power, right? They can only be in control of themselves. And so the Second Step seems to be like kind of geared towards that. So I'm really excited about that. And so I don't know if that'll change everything, but I think just what you brought up, I'm just encouraged because there may be a program that can directly speak to the concerns that you just raised. So I don't know if Dr. Cook could elaborate further on that.
When was the Second Step program started?
2 years ago. So it was about a half of the year implementation, and then this is a full year last year, and then a full year.
Because I'm sure all parents in town have heard about PBIS and all that.
Yes.
We've gotten every paper there has been on it, and it's great to get informed. I like to be informed. But I think it would be awesome to know more about the Second Step program too.
Yeah.
Because at least for me, I try to model continuity. Same type of things happen at school, same type of things happen at home. It's continuity. I feel it's important for children. So I'd love to know more about that program in itself, and maybe let more parents learn more about different programs such as that the teachers have learned about and that have been implemented throughout the schools to help the kids.
Absolutely. So second step for the most part may be incorporated into the morning meetings that your daughter may be part of in her classroom. JFK and Clover have just started with the program as well as Sage Park. And so really will be a pre-K through 8 second step district. And so there will be continuity there, and there are some documents that go home as well with that. And so we'll make sure that's a good suggestion to maybe bring that forward now that we're pre-K through 8 to be able to do that. And then PBIS, I believe we're on. Sage Park was ahead of other schools, but at least 5 or 6.
Been around for a while.
Yeah, so you're familiar with that program in terms of the tickets.
Yeah,
and
he's been there through the duration of the program.
Yeah.
So.
And the kindness suggestions one that always hits home, and it's always something we're working on with our students.
Big things, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
sorry.
please go.
I really appreciated was when I walk through JFK now, like whether it be to go visit the classroom or just to drop them off or late in the mornings or whatever the case may be, the kindness wall.
Yeah.
It, I think, has made a big difference. I see kids who will be like, look, my name's up there, oh, wow, recognition of being kind. And I think that's a vital step to recognizing the importance of positivity, kindness, the basics that we all need to instill in our younger generations.
All right. Mr. Bosch.
And actually, I was just going to point out JFK because I'm the liaison there. I get to JFK a little more than the other schools. I know everyone has a liaison. In JFK, as you know, I was going to say, Principal Ravanoli has put a big focus on kindness, and you saw the kindness wall. And on that, really getting to know the individual, they do, the houses where the students get to know like a close body. So I know it's been a focus, and what you might not need to know about me is in this last week, I don't know how many hours of Mr. Rogers I watched. As Ms. Fissel knows, not just his presentation to Congress, like back in the 60s for public funding for educational programming, but I saw him accept his Lifetime Achievement Award in the last week. I watched some episodes, I've seen him interviewed, and one of the messages he's brought day in and day out is really about that kindness and getting to know someone as an individual. One of the things that we've all heard and that I've heard is people don't care what you know until they know that you care. Yes. So it's a really good message that you bring. I don't know exactly how to take that and work with it, but I think we need that message because we look at things on the board side like the budget, the policy, the curriculum.
Right.
But all that stuff doesn't matter if we're not really valuing the individual and the kindness. That's important.
I think it's a basic principle that our children need to remember, that it's okay and your emotions are okay. It's normal to be upset and angry. It's how you handle it. And I'm not sure how this whole task force thing is going to work out because we haven't really situated any of this. I'm not sure. I feel like we'll be speaking about that at some point soon.
I will.
And I would love to take this mental health piece too and delve into that because bullying, mental health, the concussions, it all can be addressed. It's just we have to do it head on.
Yeah.
Is it urgent?
It's one statement.
Ms. Fissel?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I wasn't going to mention it, but in the Mr. Rogers video, when he addressed Congress, he literally says, we will do teaching kids that feelings are mentionable and manageable will do a great service for mental health.
Yes.
It was, I almost started crying when I saw it. So I really liked it. I literally did cry, actually. But, yeah. So it was really, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments?
Evening, Christina Santos, 65 Winthrop Road. I'm here today to say accountability matters. This year's accountability report clearly shows steady increased academic achievement in our school district. Pride should be felt by every student, employee, parent, and community member. But besides the state, niche.com, NICHE.com, has released the 2018 top elementary schools for the Hartford County. And our own Pequannock Elementary is ranked number 25. And Oliver Ellsworth is number 26 in this survey. This is wonderful news, as we should look to our local area for comparisons and not include such communities as those that are located along Connecticut shorelines. Now, I'm not surprised at all by their ranking. This honor is particularly important as we have seen success at our pre-K2 buildings in STAR results in the last couple of years. This, I say, is an example of how the budget process works, and works well. Our previous Assistant Superintendent, Mary Ann Butler, identified and requested in her budget an English language art program for our pre-K2 schools at the cost of $70,000, which has provided, over the past several years, including this latest survey, positive academic results. Yet there are current board members that wanted that program, those supplies, cut from that budget. Now, it's a good thing that the majority party held its ground and that the Words Their Way program was implemented in our schools several years ago, because we're reaping the benefits of that success today. Now, in previous budget cycles, the minority Republican Party has voted against the superintendent budget, and even after the vote of the board, the Republican Town Committee, led by Ron Ellerville, has advocated against the town referendum. Perhaps if the superintendent had a board that would support the needs of our struggling students, that infamous 20% that Ms. Fissel keeps referring to, then the board could hold the superintendent accountable for not making the progress that those students need. But the accountability falls squarely on the shoulders of the minority party, who refuse to provide, or even cut, what the school district needs. If I were a parent of the struggling 20% student, or even a parent of a child who did not get summer school last summer, I would hold the Republican minority accountable for failing my child, and not blame the school district, its staff, or its administration. The second guessing of the leadership and the educators in our buildings needs to stop. They know the needs of our children. They know education, not the board. Let the professionals do their job. And I'm not here to entertain questions. I'm just here to make my 3-minute statement. Thank you.
Ms. Fissel?
Thank you so much for entertaining a comment as the minority leader of the Board of Education. I do believe that there is adequate record through, absolutely.
Thank you for yielding to that, gentleman. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you. Ms. Fissel?
I think that I do believe that there's adequate record keeping through public video of full board meetings that would accurately capture and reflect the Republican caucus's support and also concerns. Support of the superintendent and the district, and also concerns regarding the resources made available and the programming available to students who have a demonstrated instructional need. And although we may have disagreements about the approach that we take in meeting those needs, and specifically in the area of budget allocations, policy recommendations, and curriculum development, I would have to say that the current Board of Education, the full Board of 9, has engaged respectfully and with dignity around these three areas of within our purview. And so once again, though, I would have to say, with the utmost respect of our community members, that we can access full board meetings that are recorded, and you can also view the votes through the minutes that are kept by the stenographer. So I do very much appreciate the comments that are made. However, I would just respectfully ask that community members do go look at the full board meetings and also view the minutes, because I would encourage us to have all the information available to us when we do speak about a group, especially that is no longer reflective of the current sitting board. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bosch, before I recognize you, I did see Mr. Ellerveld. Look to my right. Anyone to my right wants to speak? I'm going to recognize Mr. Ellerveld and then Mr. Bosch.
Let Mr. Bosch go first,
You
please.
yield to Mr. Bosch?
Yes, please.
Mr. Bosch?
Yeah, I just want to make a very quick comment. I definitely appreciate the accountability and the accountability report. I don't want to deteriorate into a political discussion, because I look at this forum as something for issues around the schools and the school system. But I do want to say it's really been commendable the way that this board of 9 has worked together. If you look at the decisions made since the last election, we just had a 9-0 vote in favor of the superintendent's budget. We've really come together. I really appreciate every individual here, and I know not everybody's happy with every decision. I know it's a painful process for 9 people to come together in a unanimous decision, and I could be wrong, but I think since the election, every decision has been unanimously approved so far, and I know it's taken a lot of work from a lot of people to get there, so I appreciate everybody. Thanks.
Mr. Ellerveld?
Thank you. Since I was specifically named, I'll simply state that that this board has worked together in a manner that has not been seen for many years, and in a manner that is a credit to Mr. Lockhart and his leadership, and Ms. Fissel and Mr. Fury and their work on this with this board. It's rather sad to see that someone uses an opportunity like this forum for their own personal political gain and uses children for their own benefit, and that really is unfortunate. You just saw a classic example of it. We are working together to try to benefit our children, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Fury?
The only thing I'd like to add, I wasn't on a previous board, so far all the decisions have been 9-0. It's been very, very positive of trying to work for all the students and parents, faculty members, administrators in the district, and we all take this group of 9 very seriously. I'm not sure, and I'm sure other boards may have felt that way too, but I only can speak from my experience here. I do want to say, though, when a superintendent does come with a budget, and whether or not it's this board, a board, town council, or the people who vote on it, when the superintendent says this is what we need to move ourselves forward, and we don't get that through whether it's a board, the town council again, or the voters, then you can't hold someone responsible. You can't. And so all we can say is, yes, we need to do more. We need to do things, but almost everything, unfortunately, costs money. And we do have to prioritize because we don't have a blank check. And,
Yes.
and it's a positive thing in this community that there are a lot of checks and balances. But we also need to educate people. And I also thank the minority leader and other members of the Republican caucus. Many of them say who they're actively going to support. Not only did they vote on this budget, this current budget, but they're going to actively support this budget. Hopefully, when combined with the town council budget, that it's reasonable. There's obviously that caveat that's still there. And so I think moving forward, I can't speak of before, but I know I'm very positive of the commitment of this group of 9. Thank you.
Anybody else before I close this conversation? Mr. Dober, nothing? Mr. Halley, anything? All right. We've had some difficult times over past several boards. And I've been very, very adamant about being tired of 5-4. And I think this Board of 9 has bought into that vision and brought into it very well. The sting is still lingering at times with the 5-4 votes. It was a sense of pride that the one budget that we gave Dr. Cook has produced this actual accountability report. So that was one of the things that was helped me drive the fact that, you know what, for us as Democrats at times, we would like to see a lot of things that cost money. I mean, just call it for what it is. It costs money. And I respect the conservative side of the Republicans where they say maybe we can do more, but with less. And how do we get there? That's always been the struggle over the past 4 years. And, myself, Ms. Fissel, Mr. Bosch, and Mr. Eleveld, we've been in some very heated discussions in public and private forum. And at times it led to a lot of unfortunate discord and led to a lot of budgets being defeated, and it ultimately hurt the children. And so at times maybe the morale of the teachers in the school district. That can't happen anymore. It's not going to happen anymore. The sting is still there. The Band-Aid has been ripped off on this particular topic. The healing must still continue. We must continue to move in a positive manner. I'm expecting the full Board of 9 to move at the speed of the President as we move forth and make sure that we are educating these children through our superintendent and giving him the resources that he's requesting. I've made it very clear when he presents his next budget, I want it to be a budget that's going to be eye-popping. That was the term I used. Whatever Dr. Cook wants in that budget, I want to see it. I don't want us to be in a situation where, well, what would a 3.5 look like? I want to see that 3.5 in that budget. I want to see, boom, you give me this, we will be here. And these are indicators on telling you how we get there. That's what I want. Now we can have those real good discussions on how do we get there, why are we not there? And then, okay, then Ms. Fissel can then go back to her caucus, I go back to my caucus, and then we come back and do what we do. At the end of the day, yes, we've had some very difficult discussions. And kudos to Ms. Santos. She's our past president. And you don't know the pressures of this seat until you sit in this seat. And let me tell you, when you're vice president, you make suggestions. When you're president, you make decisions. And it's a huge, huge weight. And I carry the weight of the 9, not just my 5. Just like if the Republicans had the majority, that person would carry the weight of the 9 and not just their 5. So I appreciate the way we've come together. I appreciate the candor that the community is coming out and speaking, and to make sure we remember the historical perspective of where we've come from and where we are and where we need to be. We're not going to have easy discussions while I'm president. Understand that. You can at any given point in time expect a difficult topic to hit this table and understand this president's not going to run away from it. And I expect the 9 to stand firm with me and to address those difficult situations as well as we embrace the easy situations. So I embrace the comments of Madam Speaker to my left and Madam Speaker to my far right. I embrace these comments because it's only going to make us a better school district. If we're not willing to have difficult conversations where at times it's going to offend us, then why are we here? So I just appreciate everybody coming out and making their comments. I really, really do. And I just hope that all comments made tonight are well received by the 9, and we take it, we internalize, we digest it, and we move forward and make this board and this district better. That's all I ask. and try to remove the emotion away from it if possible. Any other comments? All right, I want to discuss the task force. I want to thank the Board of Education. At the last board meeting last Wednesday, the Board of Education approved the creation of the internal and external task force. The internal task force, well, before I do that, the goal of both task force is to advise and develop recommendations to the Board of Education regarding school climate. The parameters for both task force, the group is making recommendations. The recommendations should be, as much as possible, be formulated upon best practice. Recommendations may include both short and long term. They must consider policy, curriculum, budget, family engagement, professional development, and other areas of educational systems that are relevant to the charge. And recommendations should be as specific as possible and provide cost estimates if reasonable and equitable. Okay? The timeline for both of these task force recommendations are due to the central office by Tuesday, May 29th, and they're going to be presented to the Board of Education Tuesday, June 19th. Before June 19th, they will be presented to the Executive Committee for consumption. The membership for the external will be at least one parent, guardian, or family member from each building. Community members, the BOE will, of course, approve the creation of the committee, which they did, and all appointments will be made by myself as the president. The internal, at least one teacher from each building, pupil services representative, at least one administrator from each level, 2 to 3 paraeducators. I will create the committee through the Board of Ed, which the Board of Ed has approved, and the appointments will again be made by myself as the board president. And the resources required for both committees, a note taker / meeting organizer will be provided for each meeting by the district, and experts provided as needed or requested. So with that being said, on each one of these committees, the only thing that's open-ended at this point that I have not resolved, I was hoping to have resolved, is where do we have the students participate in this? And I'm thinking more students at the high school level and not at no lower than the high school level. I'm still working through that. The task force members that you see on this list are members that I have thus far approved to participate on the task force. Dr. Cook and I are still combing through the task list. I plan on giving the final list at the executive committee meeting next week. And then once I confirm who's going to be on the committee, I will then instruct Dr. Cook to start sending out the invitations, welcome them to the committee. The only committee that's not on here that did not need approval is a committee of past leadership in town. I'm going to formulate a committee of past presidents and minority leaders. That committee will give equal representation of both Democrats and Republicans to be able to have a seat at the table with the current president, the current vice president, and the current minority leader, and to gain a historical perspective of where we've been, where we currently are, and where I would like to see us go, and to make sure I don't repeat some of the hiccups of the past, but at the same time understand why we have some of the things that we have in place right now. Am I a student of the complete history of the Windsor Board of Education? I am not. However, that's a wealth of knowledge that could be at the table to give me a perspective of where we are. In those particular meetings, there will be no staff members or the superintendent of the Windsor Public Schools participating in those meetings. So it's more of a guidance meeting, guidance council for me personally. But as far as the internal, Dr. Hill, I'm going to be asking him to lead that charge. As far as the external, I'm going to be asking Mr. Sills to lead that charge. So as soon as I finalize this list, everybody will be getting a letter from me asking you to participate, and we'll start scheduling those meetings up once I know, once I can have meeting space and a stenographer prepared for each one of those meetings. So that's where we are with the group right now. This group is going to be charged with just being focused. Dr. Hill and Mr. Sills are going to keep the group on task, on focus, to the goal and what the parameters are. If you go outside of those parameters, they're responsible for keeping you back, getting you back within those parameters. And if that's not the case, then I will come in and do what I need to do. And if a group can't function as they see fit, I have the authority to disband the task force. That's something I wish not to do, but if I must do so, I will do so. So this is an opportunity that the teachers and district employees have been asking for. It's supported by the WEA as well as the para-educators, so they're eagerly looking forward to participating. More importantly, this is a chance for parents and community members to become involved. I need people to meet me where I am. I'm asked to meet you where you are on social media. I need you to meet me where I am and to get into where we are. And if we want to make the school district better, this is where I need you to meet me so that we can put it on record, be official, and do the actual work of the Board of Ed. As board president, it's no secret that I love being on social media. However, I recognize that I am board president, and as board president, when I say something on social media, it's not Leonard Lockhart, the man's thought anymore. It's Leonard Lockhart, Board of Education president. So I have to be very careful what I say on my personal page. More importantly, I have to be careful what I say in the open forum. So that's the reason why I've been absent from that page, because some of the things that I've said or tried to do have been taken out of context at times, and in the spirit of trying to help him, it's been spun. And so once you throw a rock, you can't get that rock back. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and make sure that I'm very careful what I say, how I say it, and what form I say it in. So I believe this is a good starting point for us to give everybody some buy-in and to give hopefully solid recommendations to this board. And then whatever recommendations come forth, then we can start looking at the budget process. We can start looking at the policy committee. We can start looking at things that if it's something that's realistically that we can do and fix, then we have the opportunity to do so. So, any questions for me? I believe I answered them mostly at the board meeting, but just want to make sure there's no follow-ups. Mr. Dobler?
Point of order? Sorry,
point
of order.
Just a point of order.
What's
your point of order?
So the point of order is there's no agenda item for this topic, so we let you give this as an update, but I don't think we can go into depth on these points because it's not on the agenda.
Agree with that.
Point of order well received and duly noted. All right, it's update only. Any other discussion? No, he can't because the point of order was acknowledged. Mr. Bosch?
I don't know if I'll have a closing comment, but this is like a quick closing comment. Was why I raised my hand just now.
Okay. Well, I think no one else wants to speak, correct? Okay. All right, then I'll go in alternate order. Mr. Elgo?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Howe?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Dobler?
Just more of a question that may have been answered in the past, and if it has, I apologize. The 3 task force that you're bringing together, the question I have is, are Board of Ed members and or the public, do they have the ability to attend any of them that they would like, or is this truly a closed door meetings?
These will be meetings that will be posted. Mm-hmm. So I will have to structure that, but if you're a Board of Ed member, you would be attending as if you are a citizen from the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. So okay. Dr. Cook?
That was not my understanding when I put the committees together, so I have not.
This is closed?
That would be my recommendation. Okay. I think there's work that needs to happen at the committees, and I didn't share with any of the employees that it would be public, in terms of their work, and I think if we want them to be able to speak freely at the meetings, which is what we encourage. I do like the suggestion tonight about, is there a way to provide the committees with information? And so I think we can talk about that method, but I think that would be my recommendation to keep it. And if if the board decides to go a different way, then I think I need to re-message.
No, we'll stay. We'll keep it closed. My head is far right now. I'm trying to figure out.
And President Lockhart, just to finish my comments, I would tend to agree with Dr. Cook that they should be closed to just give the members of each task force the ability to be as open as they'd like. I just wanted to bring up the question because I was not sure if it was brought up before.
Yes, you are correct. I think what I'm trying to remember, Dr. Cook, please help me. We do have something on the website where we can, if someone wants to have comments or anything, they can forward it. That's then sent to yourself and Sally,
Right.
and then that can be forwarded to the board, correct?
Yes.
I mean, but in that case, you would forward it to the committees.
If it was directed to the committee, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And so that may be the tool we used. I just wanted to.
So we don't have to create a separate link. We already have the structure in place.
Right. I think we could put a separate tab to make it clear
Like a drop-down
that
tab, say,
that goes to the
Board of
committee.
Ed
Yep.
or task
Right.
force. Is that
Correct.
possible?
Correct.
Okay.
I think we can work through that.
Okay. You all set?
I'm good, thank you. Bosh.
My closing comments to the audience, we talked about a moment ago about making kids feel like they matter, but I want to make sure that everyone here that you feel like you matter. And when you have issues and when you have things that you're suggesting on, we all see different results. Some people, Ms. Morgan came and you've seen some tangible results. Other people have not seen tangible results. I know, Ms. Gapko, you've been fighting for a number of years and you don't have quite the results you want yet, but it all matters. Everything matters. Some things take a little longer, but you're all making a difference. And I can say that because, even for myself, sometimes it's like, am I making a difference? And you could see, even in your own life, some areas you're making a very immediate difference. In some areas, a decade goes by before you start saying, oh, those things matter. But just hearing you, and I know I didn't respond to every speaker, but hearing you matters to me, and as I go and make decisions, your concerns become my concerns. And I think that's the same for everyone at this table, the board members, the superintendent, even in the audience, you guys are hearing each other's concerns. I think one of the reasons that Windsor is good is because we have people that care and are moving us in the right direction. So, thanks for coming out. Thanks for speaking, and it does really matter, so thank you.
Mr. Shuri? Yeah. A lot of things have been talked about today about school climate, be it the task force. I started writing down some notes of what people mentioned, the kindness wall at JFK. I know there's something called the reset room at JFK. I know JFK earlier in the year, and maybe other schools did as well, had an assembly regarding resiliency. And I think at the last forum, people said it had a positive effect, even though it didn't last very long. So this board is very interested in climate. And a task force that only meets this year doesn't mean we're going to check that off some box, because that affects everything that goes on in the district. Just as school safety is important, school climate is very important to achievement, which is really kind of the primary thing we want to be about, and have an optimal setting for students to achieve. I know President Lockhart likes to repeat the mission statement of finding the genius in every student, and that's what we want. Even things when we talk about what goes into school climate, they talked about second step program, it was described a little bit, and I think we do need to do a better job, both the board and maybe the superintendents, of saying what goes in, because everybody else may have different ideas of what school climate may mean, and we may have 9 different definitions here. But to me, it also goes to class size. We've done a very good job of keeping class size reasonable. We have psychologists and social workers in every school. When I tell people that, many people from other districts, they're shocked that we have that in every building. There's at least one social worker and a psychologist. At our primary elementary schools, we also have behavioral specialists. So, this stuff isn't going away regarding climate, and there's no, unfortunately, a silver bullet, one size fits all. I like the idea about Kate coming tonight and talking about kind of resiliency and positivity. That's all part of it. And the idea of kindness. I mean, I think that all gets to school climate and what we're about, and I know this board takes it very seriously. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferry. Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, President Lockhart, and thank you to all the community members who came out and spoke this evening, and for anyone who will be viewing this, is currently viewing this or will in the future. I do very much appreciate all the information that was provided this evening. I was able to look through the accountability report, and it's encouraging. Clearly, it's encouraging to be above state average and to have a 2.4% increase. You know, looking at this, you know, the index and the targets, right? There's still more work to be done, and I am encouraged by the current administration and their commitment to looking at the whole child, because we know that if a child is having struggles emotionally, right, and they are struggling to manage their behavior, then they're not fully prepared in the moment to be able to access the instruction and the learning, right, that is the responsibility of the district to provide, right? And so I'm very much interested in continuing to look at the myriad of supports and programming and resources that are available across the district and see alignment. And so, as I've said in the past, I'm very concerned, will continue to remain concerned by any student who is not performing to their very best, right? And I'm going to continue to state that until I see that every single child has the opportunity to access the supports that are available to them within the building, and that way they can have the best opportunity to achieve the mission that we adopted, that they can achieve their genius. And so I also just wanted to state that, you know, we did also hand out the updated help guide. I'm really excited to see that this has been moved forward. In this help guide, again, it looks at the whole child. It looks at academics, it looks at behavior, it looks at emotions, it looks at conflict, it looks at relationships. What a great document to be able to circulate to our families, because this is a tool, right, that our families can utilize when they're considering, what does my child need to be successful? It's not just about behavior, it's not just about academics, it's not just about relationships or emotions, it's about looking at everything collectively and seeing what is available, and if what is available is fit to the needs of that child. And so, in this regard, students. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for the work that's being done. And then one other thing, I do really want to stress that this accountability report is an indicator of many years of work, right? This cannot be said that one budget changed all outcomes for students. This is like we say, give Second Step a few years to take hold. Give PBIS, it's a 5-year implementation plan. I believe it's a couple years of planning and a few years of implementation. It takes years to change the climate of our schools, and it takes years to change the trajectory of academic performance. So I want to remain, I bring that up because we have made a commitment and to continuing to do the work, continuing to find areas of potential growth and allocating resources and shifting priorities to ensure that this growth continues. So I just wanted to really make sure that that's emphasized, that this is an ongoing process, and your involvement as a community is critical to identifying areas of needs and allowing us to make informed decisions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fissel. First off, I must push back on your previous statement. However, I agree that it's years and years of work gone into that, but it's also been years and years of budgets that have been sliced, slashed, resources reduced. So I'm gonna continue to hold the flag that that was his first budget that he got everything he asked for, and he delivered. So on that one, we're just gonna have to respectfully agree to disagree on. Whatever we give Dr. Cook what he needs, he's showing that he can get the job done. So, but yes, as I've always stated from this seat, we are sitting on the shoulders of many board members before us that have the same passion, have the same energy about educating our children the best way possible with the resources allocated. So, you know, there's been a lot of people that I've served with that are not on this board anymore, that came before us, that actually brought the same type of energy, probably had the same type of conversations, and are doing the same things that we're doing now. So at the end of the day, I'm appreciative of Dr. Cook. I'm appreciative of what his staff is doing. I'm more appreciative of the fact that when I engage Dr. Cook, he takes ownership of everything that I put on his plate. Anything that comes on my phone, my plate, I go to Dr. Cook. He takes ownership of it, and we work side by side, and whatever support he needs, I make sure that the board and I, we support him. I've always said that there's no stronger team than a superintendent and a board, especially between the board president and the superintendent. So I'm adamant about the support of this superintendent, and I'm adamant about the support of the full board of the 9. So that's going to be the flag that I'm going to carry strong and hard, and I'm going to make sure that whatever Dr. Cook needs to address all the issues that are coming before us, we need to provide those supports, and we need to make those hard decisions. If it's in the area of school climate, if it's in the area of bullying, if it's in the area of academic achievement, if it's in the area of concussion, if it's in the area of anything, if we need to make investments in areas where these things are going to make us a better school district, then you know what, we got to make those difficult decisions. I'm not looking forward to cutting anything we currently have to backfill for something else. That's not part of what I'm looking for. I'm looking to take us on a positive trajectory moving forward. Because when all of us, we're only here for a season. When the 9 of us come off this board at some point, there's going to be 9 other people here going through the same deliberations. And I want to make sure that the decisions we make are long-term decisions. They're not short-term Band-Aids. I want decisions that we're making where 10 years from now, there's decisions that Dr. Cook has made for this school district that are still holding strong and firm and creating results down the road and are unshakable. Those are the type of decisions we need to be making. These short-term decisions about the stuff like the stuff we fight over, that means nothing to me. I'm thinking long-term, well past my administration, past the next president, past the next president. Those are the type of decisions we need to be making. And if we're not making those type of impactful decisions and providing those supports to our administrators who are looking to make those decisions through policy, through curriculum, through the support, then why are we here? So I'm challenging the 9 that we need to, again, decrease in ourselves and increase for each and every child in the school district and to support our superintendent so we can get things done. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. There's such a motion. So moved. Moved by Mr. Ellenbell, second by Mr. Fury. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. I'm off tonight. I'm so sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Abstention. Motion carries 7-0-0. Have a good evening.
Last update I got, Simsbury was up 7.
I'll take this for her. But you won't take 10 minutes.
Always a pleasure. Oh, my thanks, Dad. Yeah, thank you.
Just like I favored you without a hand, Doctor. point, I want to make sure we didn't get into big discussion since the whole not the agenda. And I don't mind like one question, I didn't really think it was going to get discussed. Lead flag.
Yeah, just
Everything.
Oh,
I'm not sure. Yep. Yeah, under that agenda, but then we went through agenda 3 and there's no agenda. So, technically, I was only talking about.
Ryan, you feeling better?
I feel a lot better. Apparently, he wasn't feeling 100%.
You guys gotta stop.
I didn't give it to Leonard. He got it from someone else.
Boys were down 7, Steve said.
Oh, looks like meeting is still on for Thursday.
Dr. Cook, I'm just gonna speak to you before we leave. No, I'm gonna finish what.
As long as it doesn't look like you have something in your hand, that's.
Remember the public reaches out to you.
I'm gonna finish what.